Tommy, man, why don't you pass brother one of them tater skins?
I told Big Shirley what you said, and she came down on me.
So I went in the room, and I was just like, so did I get the part? He was like, yeah, I'll never forget, he had a big cigar. He was like, and then he farted.
Carl Payne, best known for playing Cole Brown on Martin, has finally spoken out about the shocking rumors that have followed him for years. At 55, he is ready to set the record straight.
You heard, Pam? I'm gonna stick my foot so far down your throat, we're gonna be walking home together.
Fans have heard whispers about drama behind the scenes, fights with co-star Martin Lawrence, and secrets from his personal life. But what is the truth? Did he really have problems with Martin Lawrence? Was there bad blood on the Martin set? Let's find out what really happened.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, Tommy, man, why don't you pass brother one of them tater skins?
So Carl Payne and Martin Lawrence had a real-life feud that lasted for years. Their off-screen relationship was filled with tension, making it hard for them to work together. Carl Anthony Payne started his acting career in the 1980s. One of his early roles was on The Cosby Show, where he played Walter Cockroach Bradley, Theo Huxtable's funny best friend.
All Caesar did was to romanize the world and put some bronze in the palm of every boy.
This role showed his natural comedic timing, and it helped him land more acting jobs. He appeared in shows like Hull High and Quantum Leap. Then, in 1992, he got the role of Cole Brown on Martin. This was the role that would make him famous. Martin became a huge hit, and Carl Payne's character added an extra layer of comedy. Even though he became well known for playing Cole, he continued acting in other shows like Jack and Jill, Young Dylan, and Fifth Ward after Martin ended.
It don't matter what race she is, we all black when the lights go out.
Martin Lawrence was already a rising star before Martin started in 1992. He was known for his raw comedy style on Def Comedy Jam, where he won over audiences with his sharp humor. He moved from stand-up comedy to acting, and it was a natural transition for him. On Martin, he played the lead character, Martin Payne, a loud and funny DJ who later became a talk show host. The show was a major success and made Martin Lawrence a household name. After the sitcom ended, he moved on to movies, starring in hits like Bad Boys, Blue Streak, and Big Mama's House. By the mid-90s, he was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood.
Man, you don't sit your lanky down. Bottom line, I will knock you the out.
Even though Martin Lawrence and Carl Payne worked well together on screen, their off-screen relationship was much different. During the show's run, there were rumors that things were not right between them. Most people focused on the very public problems between Martin Lawrence and Tisha Cambell, who played Gina. But the tension between Martin and Carl Payne was also growing behind the scenes. Carl Payne later spoke about their issues in an interview. He said that at first, everything was fine between him and Martin Lawrence. They worked together without any problems. But as the show went on, things changed. Carl Payne said that Martin started treating him differently, and it created a tense environment on set. He believed that Martin was going through personal struggles that made him difficult to work with. He explained, "We had a lot of tense days on the set. I live by a certain code. I'm from Harlem. You know how we do. Yeah, we had issues, but I think Martin had issues within himself already. I don't think he was in a good place at that time."
Martin, unfortunately, show business at a certain point in his life got the best of him. And when that happens, you see it happening, and there's nothing you can do about it.
The tension kept growing, and the work environment became more stressful. Carl Payne tried to remain professional, but he said that the way Martin treated him eventually went too far. He felt like he was being disrespected, and it reached a point where he could no longer ignore it. He said, "Once you cross the line and you come at me in a way that I can't sleep at night or feel like you're threatening me, then it's a different story. Take the gloves off now." Carl Payne admitted that working on the show became uncomfortable because of the tension between him and Martin. He described it as a family relationship where fights happen, but sometimes things get too serious. He wanted to keep things professional, but the situation made it hard. Even though they worked together on screen, their off-screen problems never fully went away. For years after Martin ended, Carl Payne and Martin Lawrence did not speak. Their feud lasted for decades. Fans of the show often wondered why they never reunited or worked together again. It wasn't until much later that Carl Payne opened up about their issues, giving fans a better understanding of what really happened behind the scenes.
I seen the picture with you two together. Was that the first time y'all seen each other in years?
Absolutely. And like literally 20-something years. Literally. Yeah.
Carl confirmed that there were problems between him and Martin. He said that he never had an issue with Martin, but Martin seemed to have an issue with him. Carl didn't understand why. He was just doing his job and trying to be professional, but he felt that Martin was always trying to undermine him or make things difficult for him on set.
Hey, Tommy, man, why don't you pass brother one of them tater skins?
Some people asked Carl if the problem had something to do with a woman. Maybe Martin was jealous because Carl had been with someone Martin liked. Carl laughed at the idea. He made it clear that wasn't the case. If anything, it would have been the other way around because Carl was on the show before Martin became a big star. But he said that wasn't the issue at all. Carl admitted that the tension on set was real. There were a lot of intense days. He didn't know why Martin acted the way he did, but he thought Martin was dealing with his own personal struggles. Carl believed Martin was battling his own demons at the time. He didn't take it personally. Instead, he hoped Martin had moved on and was in a better place now. Despite the problems, Carl still appreciated working on Martin. At first, it was a great experience. The show was funny, the cast had great chemistry, and they all worked well together. But as time went on, things changed. Carl felt that the work environment was no longer enjoyable. He kept things professional, but he had his limits. If someone crossed the line and disrespected him, he had to stand up for himself. Even though they had issues, Carl didn't hold any grudges.
At the end of the day, the things you may have been mad about at 20-something or, you felt like whatever about, it's kind of like...
He understood that Martin was struggling with something at the time. He didn't blame him completely. He just focused on doing his job and making the show a success. When asked if there would ever be a Martin reunion, Carl quickly shut down the idea. He said it was never going to happen. It seemed like the problems from the past were too big to overcome. Carl also mentioned that he lives by a certain code. He grew up in Harlem, and he knew how to handle himself. He didn't like drama, but he also wasn't going to let anyone disrespect him. At the end of the day, Carl had no regrets about being on Martin. He enjoyed working on the show, even with the challenges. He learned a lot and had fun. He just wished things had been better between him and Martin.
I always wish the best for people and hope that they grow and I don't wish nothing bad on nobody, you know what I mean?
Martin was a groundbreaking sitcom that made people laugh every week. However, aside from the beef between Martin and Payne, there was also Garrett Morris's exit from the show, which was one of the saddest moments.
Use people, Martin. That's not coming from you. That's woman talk.
Garrett Morris played Stan Winters, the boss of Martin and Sean on the TV show Martin. He was the owner of the radio station WZUP. Stan was a funny character known for wearing way too much cologne and dressing in outdated clothes from the 1970s. He often gave orders in a dramatic way. One time, he announced a new rule at the station, saying, "Interviews only from now on. Got that?" His character was supposed to have a bigger role in the later seasons of the show. However, things changed when something terrible happened to Garrett Morris in real life. In 1994, Garrett Morris became the victim of a robbery attempt. He was shot multiple times in the chest and stomach.
And he had a gun like that. And I said, "Excuse me," and he shoots me and goes in there, messes up my intestines. I had to have a colostomy for like 8 months.
This event changed everything for him. Because of his injuries, the show had to go through major changes. The writers had to rewrite the story, and as a result, Stan Winters was written out of the show. Even while he was in the hospital recovering, Garrett still filmed a few scenes from his hospital bed. These scenes were meant to help explain why his character was leaving. The way the show handled it made it seem like Garrett had chosen to leave on his own, but that was not true.
That's when the person who was producing Martin decided to fire me. while I was actually in the hospital.
Years later, Garrett Morris revealed the truth. He said he was actually fired while he was still in the hospital. According to him, it was Martin Lawrence himself who made the decision to let him go. Garrett remembered receiving a script while he was recovering from his 4th major surgery. The script said that his character, Stan Winters, sold the radio station and moved to China. Garrett was confused when he read it. He even asked a makeup artist if this meant he was off the show. She told him it looked that way. This was how he found out he was being let go.
Stan sells the radio station and moves to China. So I said to the makeup lady, I said, does that mean I'm out of the show? She says, Garrett.
Garrett said that he never really understood why he was fired. He felt it was unfair, especially since he was in the hospital at the time. He also claimed that Martin Lawrence lied to the media about visiting him in the hospital. Martin had told the public that he had visited Garrett and even cried at his bedside, but Garrett said this never happened. To this day, he still does not know why Martin or the producers of the show decided to get rid of him.
Martin had a stroke. He almost died. And then after that, I saw him, and I was like, oh my God, Martin, are you okay? And he said, I got the best sleep I ever got in my life. That's how tough he is.
Aside from his characters, Martin's show had many catchphrases that people loved to repeat. Some of the most famous ones were, what's up, what up? You go, girl, and get to steppin'. These phrases became part of pop culture, and people used them in everyday life. By the mid-1990s, Martin Lawrence was at the top of his career. He was making money, starring in movies, and his TV show was one of the most popular sitcoms. But at the same time, he started acting strangely in public. In 1996, something shocking happened. He was seen in the middle of a busy street in Los Angeles, yelling and cursing. He even had a gun with him. When the police arrived, they took him away. His team said he was just tired and dehydrated. Later, Martin admitted that he was actually high and didn't even know how he got there. That same year, he got in trouble again when security found a gun in his luggage at the airport. Then, in 1997, he got into a fight at a nightclub. He punched a man because he said the man bumped into him and his wife. Around the same time, his wife, Patricia Southall, who had been Miss Virginia, said Martin was violent and unstable. She eventually left him, and they got divorced. His co-stars also noticed a change in Martin. In a 2018 interview, Tisha Arnold, who played Pam, said that all the fame was going to his head. She explained that when someone becomes a big star, they start seeing themselves as more important than everyone else. She said Martin started acting differently, and the people running the show treated him better than the rest of the cast. She said it was like watching a car crash. You see it happening, but you can't stop it.
I said, Mama used to say, take your time, young man.
Even with all the problems, Martin remained a big hit. Fans still loved the show, and it could have continued for more seasons. But something happened that changed everything. By the time the show reached its 5th season, Martin and Tisha Cambell, who played Gina, were no longer on good terms. Their friendship had turned into a serious conflict, and Tisha eventually quit the show. She barely appeared in the last season, and fans noticed her absence. The company that produced the show, HBO, wanted Tisha to return and even tried to force her back with a legal order. But Tisha refused. Instead, she sued Martin, accusing him of sexual harassment, unwanted touching, and making threats against her. She also said HBO knew about Martin's behavior, but didn't do anything to stop it.
I love you.
Martin denied everything. He said Tisha just wanted out of her contract, but in her lawsuit, she described how Martin's behavior had gotten worse over the years. She said that during the first season, he was always trying to make a move on her, but she turned him down. By the 2nd season, he became more aggressive. He would get angry for no reason and yell at people. He also threatened to fire cast and crew members. By the 3rd season, things got even worse. He would insult Tisha in front of everyone, and it got so bad that she had to go to the hospital because of the stress. She said that during breaks, Martin would touch her inappropriately. try to kiss her, and act out sexual scenes with her when the cameras weren't rolling. During the 5th season, Tisha said Martin was completely out of control. She begged the writers to stop making scenes where she had to be in bed with Martin, but they kept writing them.
But Martin, unfortunately, you know, show business at a certain point in his life got the best of him. And when that happens, you see it happening, and there's nothing you can do about it.
By November 1996, Martin Lawrence had his most extreme outburst ever. He lost control and physically confronted Tisha Cambell. His rage was so intense that Tisha felt terrified for her safety. She decided she couldn't stay in that environment any longer. She told the producers she was leaving the show and would not return. Her decision caused a lot of tension behind the scenes. Later, she filed a lawsuit against Martin, accusing him of harassment. The lawsuit was eventually settled outside of court, but it changed everything for the show's final episodes.
They offered me a national talk show, so guess what? We both gonna be working in LA!
Even though Tisha agreed to come back and film the last episodes, she set a strict condition. She would not share any scenes with Martin. This made the ending of the show very awkward. Instead of seeing Martin and Gina together, the two characters kept entering and exiting scenes separately. Fans who had watched their love story unfold over the years were disappointed by this unusual setup. The chemistry that made the show so popular was no longer there. Despite everything, Martin insisted that the show ended on his terms. Even years later, he denied that his behavior played any role in the show's cancellation. In a 2020 interview with GQ magazine, Martin said, "I just decided to end it. People said that I got canceled, but that wasn't the case. I decided to just leave the show." He made it seem like it was his choice, not the result of any problems behind the scenes. Tisha was later asked about Martin's comments during an interview on the talk show, The Talk. She was careful with her words. Due to a confidentiality agreement, she couldn't reveal too many details about what really happened. However, she admitted she was surprised by Martin's version of events. She said that after hearing his comments, she thought about how to respond. Some people advised her to stay quiet, while others told her to speak up. In the end, she chose to reach out to Martin directly. When she contacted him, Martin called her back within a minute. Their conversation was simple but meaningful. Tisha asked, "Are we good?" And Martin reassured her that they were. He told her not to pay attention to people who tried to bring up the past. He insisted that they were on good terms and that he still loved her and her family. Tisha felt relieved. She later said that the most important thing for her was the opportunity to reconnect. It wasn't about a show reboot. It was about healing and moving forward.
Let's heal. Let's keep in touch. Let's not let all this time go by.
But in 2016, something sad happened that brought them back together. Their former co-star, Thomas Mickle Ford, who played Tommy on the show, passed away. His death reminded them of what was truly important in life. At Tommy's funeral, Carl and Martin saw each other again. That moment helped them reconnect. Carl later spoke about how people grow and change over time. He said that when you are younger, certain things might make you angry, but as you get older, those things do not seem as important. Martin also had his own struggles over the years, but he had changed too. It seemed that time had healed their past issues, and they were able to move forward. Tommy's death made the cast realize that life was too short to hold on to old grudges. They finally reunited at his funeral. It was the first time in decades that they were all in the same room together. Being there reminded them of the good times, the laughs, and the special moments they had shared while making the show. Payne later said that the reunion was healing for all of them. It felt like a long-lost family coming back together.
Had like some of the funniest catchphrases.
It did.
That we now have part of our vernacular.
Isn't that
I
crazy?
still say, talk to the hand because the face don't want to hear it.
Right. Nobody remembers that it actually came from us.
The show Martin had many memorable moments.
Hey, what's happening? What's up?
Interesting fact is that in season 1, Tisha Cambell sang a song called Push in episode 25. This was actually her own song from her 1993 debut album. Many fans didn't know she had a music career as well. Another unforgettable episode was Guard Your Grill, where Martin fought professional boxer Tommy Hearns. This wasn't just a funny scene. Martin had real-life experience as a boxer when he was a teenager. He used his athletic skills to make the scene look more realistic. The episode became one of the show's most famous moments.
This time, world champion Thomas the Hitman Hearns. Down goes Payne.
One of the funniest surprises on the show happened when Martin crashed a Jodeci performance in the episode Hollywood Swinging. The band had no idea he was going to interrupt their set, so their shocked reactions were completely real. This unexpected moment made the scene even funnier and more memorable for fans. Another behind-the-scenes story is about the fake dog in the episode Suspicious Minds. Originally, Martin had asked the network to provide a real dog for the scene. However, when it was time to film, the crew brought out a stuffed dog instead. Martin didn't have a choice but to roll with it, which added to the comedy of the moment. His ability to improvise made the scene even funnier. Many fans may not realize that Tracy Morgan's career got a big boost from Martin. Even though he had started working in comedy before appearing on the show, his role as Hustle Man helped him gain recognition. Martin saw Tracy's potential and gave him the opportunity to shine. This helped Tracy move on to bigger roles, including his time as a cast member on Saturday Night Live.
People were wondering, can he speak? Does he have 100% mental capacity? But the truth is, I never did. I might actually be a few points higher now.
Another beloved character on the show was Nipsey, the bar owner played by Sean Lampkin. He was not only part of the show, but also a close friend and assistant to Martin in real life. Sadly, Sean Lampkin passed away on March 8th, 2023.
We've lost a lot of people. We lost a good friend of ours. So at the end of the day, man.
His death was another heartbreaking loss for those who loved the show. The theme song for Martin was also special. For the 4th and 5th seasons, it was performed by the gospel group Take 6. Their smooth harmonies gave the theme a fresh new sound. Many fans may not have realized that such a talented group was behind the music. Despite all the success, there were some disappointments. When Martin reached its 100th episode milestone, the cast expected a big celebration from the network. After all, reaching 100 episodes is a huge achievement in television. However, instead of a big party or special recognition, Fox only gave them a simple gift basket. This was a letdown for the cast, who had worked so hard to make the show a success. Martin remains one of the most beloved sitcoms of the 1990s. Even with all the drama behind the scenes, the show brought joy and laughter to millions of fans. The chemistry between the cast, the unforgettable characters, and the hilarious moments made it a classic. People still watch reruns today and remember the good times the show brought into their lives. While the show may have ended in an awkward way, the legacy of Martin lives on.